Welcome back. It is Friday, September the 3rd. Heidi has not disappeared and turned into a man. This is Lincoln Louttit. He's communications manager for police services and a trained broadcast journalist. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your credentials as well. And not only that, you keep our community safe, and you help to communicate what's going on. And you also have children. Do you not?
I do. I have two small guys. They're 5 and 3.
And as a 5-year-old, what would he be in? SK?
He'll be going into senior kindergarten.
Oh my gosh,
yep, big
he's
year.
A senior. You know what? The tears when they had their graduation from SK to 1 is still hurts. Still pulls on the heartstrings. Okay, so we have Lincoln in today to talk about. First of all, I want to thank you for always responding to all of our requests, by the way, because it makes our job a lot easier. And also, but we're going to steer away from anything like that. What we want to talk about is school safety, school bus safety, crossing safety.
Yes.
So I'm going to open the floor to you. You start, and let's talk school safety.
Well, thanks so much for having us. Obviously, schools are going back into in-school learning next week. I believe everybody starts on the 9th. That's when my little guy gets to go back to school.
The countdown's on, 100%.
I know obviously we don't know what the school year is going to bring. The last year and a half, 2 years have been unpredictable because of our current COVID situation, but obviously we're going to have children going back to schools. We know that children can be unpredictable at the best of times, so we obviously urge everyone that's traveling on our streets, people driving in cars, cyclists, to be extra vigilant, especially the first couple weeks of school, because kids are, I know my son is incredibly excited to be going back to school,
so is mine.
to see his friends,
absolutely.
and they don't always pay attention, right? So we want people to be mindful that there's going to be little people out there that are going back to school, and I know my guy's got to cross the street to get on the bus.
Yes, so does mine.
So we want everybody to be careful there. There obviously are consequences to not stopping for a school bus.
Yeah, and I want to get into those consequences, but just to point out too, like you said, school's been out for quite some time, so drivers aren't as alert perhaps, or recognizing that there's a lot of little people around. So there will be a lot more people around, and those school buses will be out and about. So let's talk about school bus safety.
Yeah, and even talking with officers, Colette, to be honest with you, when they pull somebody over that hasn't stopped for a school bus, sometimes people go, what school bus? Like, we take for granted that it's a 20-foot long big yellow thing, but people get so caught up in what they're doing, where they're heading, that they just kind of they forget, and we really want people to be vigilant. We don't want to see anybody injured, especially children during the back to school time.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the big things that we really do urge people. Obviously, parents play a role in that as well.
Yes, they do.
Have a conversation with your kids, with young people in your lives about looking both ways before they cross the street, or if they have to cross an intersection at a crosswalk, make sure you wait for, I tell my son, look for the guy that's walking on the sign, not the hand that says no. So those are conversations you can have as well. Crossing guards, we don't want to forget our friends that are the crossing guards that help kids cross safely. When they go into an intersection, I know the one up on Pine Street is a busy one next to St. Paul's.
Yes, it is.
You see the crossing guard come out with the stop sign, like they're in charge of that intersection. So make sure that you're paying attention to them so that our children can cross safely and they can enjoy their school year, fingers crossed, in person.
And also, exactly. Also remind you to everybody, they're wearing masks, our little guys getting on this school bus. So it's a distraction. It is, sometimes you have glasses, and I don't know if you wear glasses, Lincoln, but when I put mine on, it's like, I can't see anything.
There are so many factors involved right now that it's just, we just want people to take that extra minute to get to where you're going. Everybody's always in a hurry to get to where they need to go.
That's so true.
But just take that extra minute to make sure everybody gets to their destination safely.
Okay. What other school safety procedures or precautions should we look out for, and anything else that you can educate us on?
Yeah, well, obviously the school bus stuff is kind of a high priority, because that's how a lot of kids get to school.
Absolutely.
However, last year, when children were going back to school for the first time in a while, we got calls from parents saying that we're not going to put our kids on a school bus. There's going to be an increased number of kids actually riding their bikes to school.
Okay.
So I know in the community that we have more bicycle lanes. So we're just trying to urge everyone to be mindful of that. Bicycles have a right to be on the road as well. Be courteous when you're in a vehicle. You're in a big machine, so be courteous with people that are taking their bicycles to wherever they're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was something that came up last year, was that to expect an increased number of children on our roads riding their bicycles because parents weren't comfortable with them on the bus.
You know what? I never gave that any thought. That's a great point.
And another thing I think that's new this year too is that the city has established a greater number of school zones with reduced speed limits. So generally speaking in Sault Ste. Marie, if the speed is not posted, the speed limit is 50 kilometers an hour.
Okay.
However, in these school zones, which it will be posted, the speed limits are now 40 kilometers an hour. So just an extra added safety measure to try to keep our children safe is reduce speeds in all areas where schools are. So be mindful that if you're in an area where there's a school, that the speed limit is likely has been reduced to 40 kilometers an hour. And obviously, drive accordingly. We're going to head into the fall, so your car's going to be, you've probably noticed last couple weeks, your car's all fogged up in the morning.
Yes.
So
I blame Craig for that every morning.
blame the weather, guys.
I know,
I fully
right?
support that.
I know, like he has anything to do with it.
So wipe your windows down or let your car warm up a little bit so that your windows aren't foggy. Obviously, winter safety is a whole other thing. Once we get there, let's, not too soon. Hopefully, we enjoy a few more weeks of nice weather.
The bad juju, yeah, no, for sure.
Yes.
Is there anything else you can share with us? That was a great point with regards to cycling, our kids cycling to school, because again, some parents are uncomfortable putting their kids on the bus with, let's be honest, recycled air, right? And our 12 and unders are unable to, or 11 and unders, I think it's probably more appropriate to say, are not vaccinated right now, so let's keep them safe. You mentioned something that I want to say. Oh, Dante goes to St. Basil's, and what I found was kind of cool, they don't allow kids to walk to school or back to school. So I want to check in and see if they've eased those restrictions to let them bike to school.
One other thing actually I can say
idea.
is, we did an initiative, I think it was a couple years ago in November, with the first ever pedestrian crossover. So we're all familiar in Sault Ste. Marie with the crosswalks. Those are the ones that at stoplights with the little guy walking or the hand, right? But we also have, I think there's 5 or 6 now, they're called pedestrian crossovers. It's pretty new to Sault Ste. Marie, it's only a couple years old, but in Southern Ontario they do a lot of these.
Okay.
It's different spots on the roadways that have the flashing light and markings on the roadway for people to cross, not at stoplights. So these are called pedestrian crossovers.
Gotcha.
So it's taken people a little bit of time to get used to some of these, but essentially it is, I will show up to one of these crossovers, I push a button, lights flash a little bit, and then it's up to the pedestrian to know what's going on too, but wait for vehicles to stop and then cross. So that's another thing for motorists, is be mindful of these new pedestrian crossovers. I say new, sort of
new to Sault Ste. Marie.
It's been a couple of years, but it's still something that people take a little bit of time to familiarize themselves with these types of things. So try to be cognizant of those as well. There's one by St. Basil's, which kind of jogged my memory on St. George's Avenue there. So those are other ways that kids that are walking to school will be using these road safety measures to try to get to their schools. So anybody that's driving in an area that has one of these pedestrian crossovers, please know that it's there and anticipate. I take that route home into work quite often. And when I go around the corner, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a crossover. So it's like, look left. Is anybody there? Look right. Is anybody there? No. Okay, then you're good to go. So it's just another measure that the city's put in place to help pedestrians cross roads more safely.
That's a great point, Lincoln. All great points this morning. I really appreciate you joining us today. Again, school bus safety, crossing safety. Educate your children, stop, look, and listen.
Yes.
If I can go back to my SK days. So I wish your son well in SK, and I know that you've been working from home, so this might give you a little bit of a break coming up next week too. So Lincoln Louttit from the Police Services Comms Manager, thank you so much for being here today, Lincoln, and thanks for supporting Soo Online and on TV. We'll be going to take a quick commercial. Lincoln is going to turn into Heidi, and then we're going to hit up some more local news. We'll be and COVID news, because what's a day without COVID-19 news? We'll be right back.